it got that early 2000s feel, like just all over it, like that whole
Yeah.
sound. And also like you can hear the instruments, like I don't know, to me, because I produce, I produce now and stuff like that, but you can hear like some of those same instruments from some of them hit Backstreet Boy records.
Dakari, like from producer standpoint, obviously back then, me and Smiles were, underground, hip hop. Like we was hip hop heads. You know what I'm saying? So like all the producers we really had access to and work with, we all hip hop heads. So everything was very hip hop. Where Dakari was like one of the first producers that we came across, that when we heard his production, it was like, man, this thing sound big. Like this thing sound radio-ish,
Mhm.
where,
Mhm.
and it
I
could be, like I
agree.
said, a lot of the sounds or the keys and things that he's doing. But of course, coming from his background, after knowing the background, you kind of understood now, we that's what we going for. And so
Yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, hey man, Dakar is my guy, man. Love Dakar. I
No,
tell him all the
no,
time, man, he changed my life.
I'm saying this not to like, take anything away from it. It's what the game needed at that point. Like that sound, like O-Town album. It kind of sounded like some of the tracks, like you could tell like Dakari was behind it just because the sounds of it. Like I'm a big sound guy. Like I like to listen to a record and pick out every instrument
Yep.
in it, So it's like, so I'm big on that. That's super dope being able to work with Dakari and knowing, and I'm sure it was a lot of pressure, being a new hip hop artist and knowing all the accolades that this man, has already done, and you being, like you said, coming in late night after the other artists are done and stuff like that to come in and get
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
work in. So I'm sure that was a lot of pressure being a new artist and stuff like that. So that just had to be a dope time to be around.
Nah, definitely fun, man. I think for me and Smiles at the time, we ain't really even think none of it. For us, we was just happy to be in the studio working on some records and having this production that is like out of this world for us at the time.
You looking around like this is
Yeah,
studio right
yeah.
here.
Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, this is it, man. I mean, they at that time, man, that studio, like they used to have a chef that will cook lunch, cook dinner, so we'd be like, dang, this is crazy, like for us, we was just enjoying the moment, not really even thinking about, because we ain't going in like, let's do a project, let's make a single. It was more, let's just do some record, let's write, like, what do you need? Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Um, and for what it turned out to be, obviously, in the long run, it's still kind of is crazy to think about, that first night us going in there. We had no idea it would become what it became.
And Dakari, obviously, he brought you to Lou Pearlman, and y'all were at Transcontinental. So
Yep.
how did that all go? Because Lou Pearlman, he's the big mogul that started this whole boy band craze in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hip hop wasn't their thing. The car, we were kind of the Dakari's thing. And when we going back to the first single, "Who Wants This," like I said, we was just in the studio, like doing records, and what we would do sometimes, and the car would do too, is we would take the record out the studio. Back then, used to burn it on a CD or whatever. We would take it down the street and go to the
Go
strip
test
club
it
and
out,
have one of
huh?
the
Yeah,
DJs just
yeah.
play it and hear it. You know what I'm saying? And then because you kind of hear the sounds and you kind of see the reaction. And
Try to
"Who
get the
Wants This" was like, I think maybe our third or fourth or fifth record that
okay,
we did. And
okay.
he tested it. We was testing it at the club, and it sounded really dope, right? And then, back then, like you had street teams and stuff like that, which is kind of my background in the music industry. Really, before I even really got into rapping, I used to do street team work in the Orlando area. So I kind of started learning the marketing side of this, like the guerrilla marketing, the posters, the CDs.
Who'd you do street team for? Who'd you do street team for? Because I did street team
So
too.
our manager had a company called Street Dwellers, and we used to have pretty much almost every account in Central Florida other than Def Jam. So Atlantic, like Warner, all the different labels. Um, Other than Def Jam. Def Jam had another street team that was doing their stuff. But used to go put up the posters at the club and
The
get
flyers.
service the DJs with the records. That was kind of like my introduction to, oh, this is how they market records. This is how you promote records. This is actually how they get records played and stuff. So having that background, when Dakari kind of was like, hey man, I think this is a good record, man. It tests well at the strip club, the DJs like it, girls like it, sound good. I'm gonna approach Lou about pressing up some vinyl. So get the vinyl pressed. We got the guys that can service the DJs, because we are really servicing DJs with all these other records that they
Mhm.
that they that they want.
That's
So
right.
now it's like, hey, slide this one right in too. You know what I'm saying? And then, hey, you work in mix show, you work in DJs at the radio, like, hey, I need a spin on this record. Can you give me one today? Right. And then it's like, hey, can you throw this one in there as well? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's kind of how it started at guerrilla marketing. We took the street team logic and started promoting Who Wants This. And one of our really good friends who was in Orlando, he had moved to Fort Myers. He ended up in our mix show. He's like the main DJ doing the traffic jam, 5 o'clock stuff on 105.5 The Beat down there. Started playing our record. And the program director there, Bo Matthews, shout out Bo Matthews, man. He was a major player in what eventually became SMILEZ SOUTHSTAR. But he kind of was like, yo, who's that? And our boy was like, yo, that's my boys from Orlando, man. Like, yo, they dope, man. Hey, see if they want to come down and do this show, Halloween, like this erotic exotic ball, like radio show, right? It was with Kaya. Kaya was like the headline. They were like, yeah, see if they want to come down and do that show with her. So he was like, yo, you want to come down? I was like, shit, let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So we literally went down there, did that show that night. And, first time me and SMILEZ performed together. We had like 3 songs, just boom, rocked it out. Went upstairs, program director loved it, hung out with us. We were drinking, like kind of just chilling the whole night. After the party, he goes, hey, let's go back to the radio station, man. I'm about to play your song over and over and over. So we literally went back to the radio station at like 3 in the morning. Nobody's probably listening anyway, but he played the Who Wants This record like back to back to back to back to back to back to back, like literally probably like 10, 15, 20 times. Now it shows up obviously, in
BDS.
Media Base or BDS and stuff like that. But that's kind of how Lou came involved. It was more, hey, let's press this vinyl up. So he obviously backed Dakari. He believed in Dakari. Dakari's been an in-house producer for him for a long time, and this was kind of Dakari's baby and his project. So he backed them. And then as the stuff started really taking off, it became a production deal through Dakari, through Transcon. And then eventually Artist Direct came around and became a full label deal through Artist Direct, through Transcon. So, but that's really the story, man. Street team background, having somebody that had the money to press vinyl.
Well, I tell you what, that's a big part of the story too. That's a big part of the story, because if you didn't have that, I would say the knowledge and the relationships that you had through, like you said, giving these DJs already the hot records from these other hot artists, and establishing just face to face, but back in the days, you had to go and shake that person's hand. You had to go give them a record. It wasn't about the email blast. You had to go see them at 12 at night, or really at 9 when he's getting there, and give him the record and be like, hey, play it right now. See if you can play it at 12, type
you gotta
stuff.
meet them outside a radio station before they walk in, and
you got to hit them with it.
Or you got to hit him when he's walking out, and you got to be at his event, show love, like that's what it was about back then, man.